So what I found is no matter how long I let this primer dry, whenever I flip it over on the table, there's some kind of little scratch. So I know aluminum's kind of notorious for painting, but this is my solution. I got some hardware that I don't plan on using and plenty of string and a career that taught me all the knots I'll ever need to know. So I don't really care if the paint isn't perfect where a screw's going to be covered up. So I will say this stays tacky for a long time. It's all right when it's dry, but I feel like it takes maybe 2 or 3 days to dry well enough for it to be handled. Because when I painted the brackets, I gave it a good 30 hours of drying, and I still got a bunch of touch-up work to do up there, and also got some sealing to do on the rails, but it won't quit raining. So I gotta wait for that because I don't want to seal any water in there, so I gotta wait for it to dry out completely. Alright, so just laid a bead of, come on, focus, of caulking on either side. I've gotta say, it is not the best stuff. It takes forever to dry, and it's really tacky. Like, I can't run my finger along to smooth it out like when I'm doing trim work for like the house. So maybe this stuff wasn't a great choice. I just kind of, the label looked like it would work pretty well, but I don't know. It'll work for now, but I got to clean up a lot of stuff because I made a mess. Did not do a great caulking job aesthetically. So for noise reduction, I'm taking this door and window sealer, sponge window seal, that's what it's called, and I am putting it into the voids top and bottom. I got to leave the front and back open to slide the screws into, but for now the top and bottom I don't need to do that with, so that's where that's going to be. If I need to remove it to mount something top or bottom later, I can, but we'll see what that does for noise reduction, kind of fill that void and streamline it a little bit. And the sides are done. I like how it came out. So the next step is going to be the aero panel. Might be a couple of days, I might take some time off, but yeah, that's her. Ready to rock. So to explain what I've got planned for the aero on this build, I got to do a little preemptive explanation on aerodynamics. Now, I'm not an engineer or an expert at this, but I do grasp enough of it to, I think, make good decisions here. So a key concept in aerodynamics is called the Coanda Effect, and that is a fluid's tendency to follow a plane, a physical plane, like something flat. Like if air was blowing along here, it would tend to follow the contour, and that's kind of a guiding principle on airplane wings. The air tends to follow on these contours. So an easy way to understand this is running your fingers underneath the faucet. So you introduce something for the fluid to travel along, and then the Coanda effect starts to apply, and it tries to travel along this surface until you have separation. And that separation of flow, when you're traveling through air instead of water, is where you get these pockets right here, where you're dragging all this craziness along with you, because it's just going to hug right there and not move at all, except, you know, swirling around. And all that swirling takes energy, and that energy is coming from your vehicle because you're traveling through the air. So the reason why this is so efficient is because it guides the split pillars of air, or it guides it back together in a smooth way where, you know, you're not carrying a huge amount of turbulence back here. Here's a good example. This wing is, the angle of attack's too steep. So at some point, and on every shape, you'll have flow separation right here, and you can see all the craziness that it introduces, and all that you're carrying with you, and that costs energy. So on the Prinsu design, you've got the same thing going on. It might reduce noise, and I think that's what they're going for, more than, you know, reducing drag, because, well, I think this is right up against here on their design, but more or less the same thing's going on. You've got this kind of stuff happening back here, because once the flow separates, the air's doing its own thing. and you want to control the airflow. Now, I didn't do a great job of lining this out to where it's easy to see, but the green is the contour of the side rail. That right there is the cross rail, and the orange is going to be sheets of metal that I shape. So by splitting the air right here instead of blocking it off down here, I can keep it flowing on both sides of this plane. And what that does is do a little more to prevent a high and low pressure pocket on either side. So when you have the air traveling at different speeds, you're introducing high and low pressures, and that creates some drag. Also, by keeping the shape along with the trajectory that the air is already flowing in, you can prevent the separation that creates so much drag and noise. So this looks a little impractical to build, but I think I got a way to do this. Now keep in mind, I'm not building a watch here. I just enjoy this kind of stuff, and it's fun to me to try to minimize drag just as an exercise and trying to understand this stuff even better. So when I down the road add my lights, the cross section will look kind of like this. So there's going to be some protrusions. It's not going to be some perfect airplane wing foil up there, but if I could just kind of quiet it down and minimize the mile per gallon hit, which to my knowledge hasn't been that huge, because it's maybe gone down like a mile per gallon with just the rails up there. But like I said, this is just kind of fun to me. So as a side note, if any of you guys know how to use SimWorks or close the program. Come on. Or OpenFoam, because every time I click on OpenFoam, it just kind of gives me this. So I'd really like to set up a model so I can do some actual like computer-based testing, but I don't know. If any of you guys know what you're doing here, let me know.